All right. Welcome to Restorative Yoga. I hope everybody is having a nice weekend and finding some time to be outside if the weather is good where you are. All right. Is this week 5 of isolation? I don't know. It's just crazy to think that it's gone on this long. But if you're on my newsletter, I kind of wrote a little bit about a book that I'm reading today in the newsletter that went out this morning. And I've been thinking a lot about how crazy everything is. And then also the things I feel like I need to do to keep myself like centered and stable and the core of my family. I mean, my husband, of course, is a tremendous part as well, but I sometimes think people kind of revolve around the mother. At least that's how it feels for us. And if my energy's off, I feel like my kids quickly spiral out of control. Things get, my husband doesn't always know what to do. And so I've really felt heavily the past few weeks a need to figure out new ways to take care of myself and to like claim a space of my own. It's been interesting. It's been helpful. I had my cousin visiting to help around the house, and I was able to find some time to do some little things again, like reading and more writing and a little meditating, just these little things that I used to do that have started to slip away, I feel like, since this quarantine's been going on. So I've been trying to claim some of those back. And an interesting quote popped up on Facebook today that I wanted to share with you guys. It says, the most important spiritual growth doesn't happen when you're meditating or on a yoga mat. It happens in the midst of conflict, when you're frustrated, angry, or scared, and you're doing the same old thing. And then you suddenly realize that you have a choice to do it differently. And I thought that was pretty profound for, it kind of spoke to the times right now. I think that there's a lot of spiritual growth that can go on right now, just with all the choices that we have in our life and the things that are coming at us, some of the uncertainty and everything. And we can continue to operate how we've always operated, or we can start to dissect the little parts of life that maybe are causing tension, and maybe some areas where we feel discomfort. We feel not just discomfort, but like things aren't quite working. And this is a great time for us to start to look at that and just say, okay, what simple shifts can I start to make? How can I choose differently so that we don't know how much longer we're going to be operating in isolation. So just wanted to share that with you. I have somebody waiting to pop in. All right, I think she got in. There we go. Welcome. I think that's Megan. It says Lincoln, but I think I know who that is. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I think especially as a mom, there's a lot of opportunities that pop up for me to reevaluate the way I've been doing things, the way I've always been doing things, and start to pinpoint, this is working and this list, these are not working. How can I tweak them? So today in restorative class, we are going to start off on our backs. Oftentimes throughout these classes, I've been starting with just a little bit of movement to warm up the spine. We'll get to that. But instead of a seated warm up, I'm going to have us lie on our back. So we're going to get into supine Baddha Konasana. And remember, I'm super pregnant, so it always looks a little different when I do it. But, well, first of all, we'll talk about props. So I don't know if you saw in the Facebook group, there's a video posted in there, but then I also sent out a quick reminder. If you have some blankets or towels, those would be super helpful just to use as props. I would say maybe 4 to 5 of them. Some sort of an eye pillow is great because it can be just a t-shirt even that you kind of like place over your eyes. It just helps to shut out the outside world. And I'm going to use yoga blocks, and if you don't have yoga blocks, cushions work completely fine. something from your couch, maybe something that's a little bit firmer might be helpful. So, all right, and then if at any point there's any questions or you can't hear me or anything, just jump into the chat and let me know. I'll be keeping my eye on that. All right, so for our supine Baddha Konasana, we don't need these yet. We're going to take our blanket or towel, whatever you have, start with it about this size, and just like we've done before, we're going to start to roll it up. So you have kind of like a little yoga bolster. And then we'll do the exact same with another blanket. Lay it down, about the same size. And we'll place our bolster in the middle. And we'll start to roll it, just like that. So I have my yoga bolster all ready for when we need it. We'll place that to the side. And then I'm going to grab my 2 yoga blocks, and you can have pillows here. So we're going to go into a supine position, which is lying down. We'll bring the bottoms of our feet together. And I'm going to take these blocks because my knees kind of hang up. Some people get their knees really low, but I'm going to place these underneath for a little added support. It just kind of helps with the hips. If you want a little blanket for your neck, you can. And just begin to roll yourself down. All right, hopefully you can hear me okay. So the bottoms of my feet are together. My knees are resting on these yoga blocks or pillows. I'm going to sit up so you can hear me. And allow your shoulders to open up. Allow your arms to just fall out to the side as you're lying down. And begin to deepen that inhale and draw out that exhale. Good. So depending on how open your shoulders are, sometimes when people start yoga, there's a tendency to roll your shoulders in and put your hands down at your side. I want you to think about rolling those shoulders back. So open up through that chest. Push the shoulders down towards the mat. The backs of the hands are lying on the mat. Instead of having your arms in close, just find a little bit of space. Good. And as you're lying here, if it starts to get uncomfortable for your lower back or your legs, you can play with how close your feet are to your body. So maybe send them out a little bit, or maybe draw them in closer, or maybe send your legs completely long if this posture is not working for you. And as we're laying here, just close our eyes. Restorative yoga is the practice of letting the body rest while the mind watches. Usually our body and our mind both find space to rest at night when we're sleeping. And this is a chance for the mind to still be very much awake while the body is at rest. And we begin with the first part of this practice, which is the disconnection from the outside world. And as mothers, that can be a very tough thing to do. But it can be a pretty amazing thing to do as well. So there may be some outside noises that come up. Somebody might even pop their head in the room, who knows? And that's kind of a part of the practice, being able to just acknowledge what's going on outside and then draw yourself back to the mat. And as your mind begins to wander throughout this practice, which it will do, you'll start maybe thinking about dinner, or you'll hear a baby cry and you'll wonder if your partner has everything under control. And just let your mind observe that, just see where it's gone, and then gently bring yourself back to the mat. Bring yourself back to the breath. And close your eyes if you haven't yet. There's always an opportunity when we're in these reclined positions to use your eye pillow if you want. but normally we open class seated. And today I just wanted us to lie down. Feel your spine heavy into the mat. And now we're drawing into the breath. Focus on that inhale. Breathing in fully. Feel those lungs expand, taking in some of the biggest breaths you've taken all day, all week, all month. And then feel that exhale as you empty those lungs out completely. And draw that breath in again. And as you inhale, pause for just a second at the top of that inhale, maybe sip in a little more. And then move into a nice fluid exhale. Maybe emptying out just a little more at the bottom of that exhale. Good. Flow through a few more breaths like this, really paying attention to what's happening with your lungs, feeling them expand on the inhale and feeling them release fully on the exhale. Good. And just bring your awareness back to those shoulders. Notice what they've done. Are they sinking down into the mat? Are your hips releasing, your spine releasing into the mat? And feel the backs of the hands getting nice and heavy. And just notice how your energy feels within your body. Do you remember a few minutes ago when you stepped on the mat, where you were at, coming to this space from the outside world? And notice where you are now, just a few breaths later. Has anything in your body started to shift? Now let's take a scan of the whole body. So start with the top of your head and just slowly bring your awareness down to the muscles around your eyes, the muscles through your jaw. We carry a lot of tension there. And on your next exhale, just allow them to release. On the shoulders, down into the arms and the hands. On your next exhale, allow them to release a little bit more. Lying down on your mat, paying attention to the different parts of the back, so the upper back, the middle back, and the lower back. And just notice if there's any tension. If there's any tension in your body, maybe you need to adjust slightly to release that low back, or maybe you're able just to, with your exhale, find some release through those muscles. And down into the hips, and the legs, down through the feet. Just invite your body to find a deep relaxation here. Maybe something you haven't found all week. Still connecting to that breath. Good. And restorative yoga is not by any means the easiest style of yoga to practice, even though people look at the class and they think, oh, it's 6 to 7 postures. You're just going to lie down and hold them. But it's a true exercise for your mind. It is a challenge. It is a hard class, just different than a vinyasa flow. So throughout this class, as your mind begins to wander, just go easy on yourself and acknowledge what's happened and bring yourself back to the breath. Bring yourself back to the mat. Tune into what's happening with your inhale and your exhale. Tune into the body, looking for areas of tension. And just remind yourself that this this is your chance. This is your opportunity this week, maybe the only chance you have to find complete rest, release, and relaxation other than when you're asleep. We're here for just a few more breaths. Good, and when you're ready, release your chin down to your chest and slowly roll yourself over to the side. You can go to your left side or your right side. And just lie in the fetal position for a minute. Now when you're ready, draw yourself up to a seated position. Good. So if you always sit with your one leg on top, just flip the cross of your legs. And we're going to begin warming up our spine like we've done before, just moving through our seated cat and cow postures. So I'm a little limited in what I can do on this one, but if it feels good, maybe find a blanket to prop yourself up on. My knees tend to pop up because my hips are pretty tight right now. Coming up on a blanket allows them to release down a little bit, which feels much better. So moving through our cat-cow, we're going to inhale, draw your shoulders back, shine that heart forward. And on the exhale, roll the shoulders forward, rounding through the back. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Keep moving with your own inhale and exhale here. And allow your inhale and exhale to be nice and slow, nice and drawn out. So move slowly. And envision the spine. You have the upper part of the back, the middle, and the lower. And you really want to find movement in between every single vertebrae if you can. Sometimes you might feel like your middle of your back on your cat posture just can't find any movement in that little back bend. Gently move into it. And exhale. Keep going. And I know soon I'll be moving back into the nursing days of having a newborn. And so oftentimes my nursing posture is horrible. I like round my shoulders and everything. Carrying kids, if you're carrying babies right now, or even children, that takes a toll and we kind of get off balance. So just notice as you're moving through this. We'll do it about 3 more times. Just notice if you feel one side is a little tighter, or maybe the shoulders aren't able to fully open up. Just gently move a little bit further into that. Last one. Good, and now we're gonna move through the side body here. So let's undo our legs and fold them the opposite direction. Left hand down. As you inhale, reach that right arm up. And exhale, come all the way over. And hold it here for a few breaths. Keep that hip rooted down into the mat. It wants to pop up, but keep that hip down. And on your exhale, maybe you go just a little bit further. And maybe a little bit further. Good. On your inhale, we'll come all the way up, reach both arms up. And exhale, opposite hand down. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, other side. Again, keep that hip rooted. On your exhale, maybe go a little bit further. Two more breaths here. Good. On that inhale, bring our arms back and come to a seated. Inhale, roll your shoulders up into your ears, squeeze them up. Exhale, round the shoulders back and down. Maybe open that mouth on the exhale. Inhale again, roll the shoulders up. Open mouth, exhale. Nice, last one. And exhale. Okay, so in a lot of restorative classes, you won't even find that much movement, but I like to start us off by, warming up the spine, warming up the back. So next we're going to move into a child's pose. And I want this to be a very supported child's pose. So grab your cushions if you have them, or your yoga blocks, and then the bolster that we made at the beginning. And we did this last class. You might find that you don't need these cushions at the bottom. It kind of depends on how far you want to go. And you may find that a blanket just on top of your heels helps give you some extra support. So keep in mind the purpose of restorative class is not to feel a stretch. It's actually to feel completely supported and relaxed. You don't want this to hurt or to be challenging. So we'll draw our bolster in and make adjustments. If you get into the posture and you're like, oh, this feels really high, you can always remove this, or maybe it's not high enough and you can add some more towels or blankets on top. So bring your knees out nice and wide. Bring your big toes to touch behind you. So your big toes should be touching. The bolster is right in front of you. And gaze forward, just extend up through the crown of the head. So really find length. Before we fold down into our child's pose, let's think about finding a little space between each vertebrae, maybe even a little more. Now on your next exhale, draw yourself forward, coming down. Bring your right cheek down to the bolster. Good, and stay there with your right cheek down. Your hands can be down to the side. Make any adjustments now that you need to. We're going to hold this for a few minutes. This is one of our forward folds in restorative class. So we have back bends, forward folds, just like we do in other yoga classes. We have twists. And forward folds are a chance to really draw within yourself, to go really deep. It's kind of a shutting out of the external world and the collapsing within, which is our second part of class, connecting within. So we started the separation from the outside world, detaching, and now we're going within even deeper. And still find that breath. Notice what's happening in the jaw. Maybe close your eyes. And we'll be switching in a few minutes to the opposite cheek. So just keep the one cheek down right now. And come back to the breath. Feel how cool it feels on the inhale, coming in through your nose. And as our body transforms the breath, we exhale that out, feeling warmth. One of the biggest benefits of restorative yoga, in my mind, is the effect it has on your nervous system. I think it's something so many of us pay so little attention to. But we spend a lot of our life operating the sympathetic nervous system. So we're in fight or flight mode all the time. I know from the moment my children wake me up in the morning to the moment I get them to bed at night, it's so easy to get caught up in that sympathetic nervous system, that quick pace, fight or flight. We're multitasking and we're doing a million things. But there's another side. There's the parasympathetic nervous system. And that requires us to turn off the sympathetic, turn off the fight or flight, and to really find time and space while we're awake to rest and relax. And that's what this is all about. This is the time when our body begins to really heal itself. It's not worried about just survival. It's not worried about making a bowl of Cheerios and getting an iPad set up and changing a diaper and all of these things that we are doing all at once as mothers. The parasympathetic kicks in when we detach from that and when we go within and we find space to relax. It's where our creativity is at its best. And when you're ready, just gently switch over to the left cheek. So raise your head up. You don't need to move anything else, and just switch sides, bringing your left cheek down onto the bolster. The parasympathetic nervous system is when the muddy water, the murky water, the busy water just starts to settle, and all that sediment falls to the bottom, and the water becomes clear again. So maybe even visualize all of the sediment, all of the dirt and the sediment and everything that's keeping your water murky. Allow it just to filter down to the bottom, floating down, resting, and the water becoming clear again, the mind finding peace and clarity. We're here for a couple more breaths. Last inhale and exhale. When you're ready, on your next inhale, we'll draw ourselves up. Remove your bolster and your blocks. And bring your legs around to the front. So that was what a version of a forward fold. Now we're going to go into a gentle back bend. And I haven't done this with you guys before, but if you've done yoga, you've probably done back bends in one form or another. It's a supported bridge pose. So I would recommend yoga blocks. If you have them, maybe just grab one. If you have pillows off of your couch, or even your bolster will work here. You do want kind of a firmer surface, so something that's a little firm. And we're going to draw ourselves down onto our back. And use your fingertips just to graze your heels. On your inhale, raise your hips up. And we'll tuck that block or pillow or whatever we have underneath our sacrum. Adjust it if you need. Now we're not moving into a full bridge, so your hips are not lifted very high. It's a very gentle back bend. It's a little more on your low back. Draw one shoulder under and the other. And allow your legs to find a mildly active posture here, but as much release as possible. And if you're not feeling release through the legs, if it's too hard to kind of keep them like stiff and rigid like that, just send your feet out a little wider and bring your knees together. So your knees could actually touch if that feels better. And your shoulder blades are down, just roll one and down, the other down again. Arms are out to the side. Backs of your hands are on the mat, or maybe off the mat. And if you feel like you want to go a little bit deeper, you can add another pillow or draw that block up. But again, the purpose of this back bend is not to find that massive opening that you experience in a vinyasa flow class. This is a very gentle, mild back bend. It's kind of an opening, a gentle stretch through the front body, and then you'll feel it into probably more of the lower in the middle of your back, but it's very gentle. And we're going to hold this for a little bit, not quite as long as child's pose, but maybe close your eyes. And again, tune into what's going on with your body. Sometimes back bends can start to feel a little different in the low back. And if it doesn't feel good, maybe go to a lower height. You could even just come down onto a folded towel if that's all you want right now. This practice is much less about the physical expansion that you begin to feel when you're going through a vinyasa class. And it's much more about the drawing within, the connecting to the body and the breath and the mind. So if you start to feel discomfort through the physical body, just pull back a little bit. Notice if there's any part of your body that can release a little bit further. And I'm going to share with you guys one more time that reading from the beginning of class. The most important spiritual growth doesn't happen when you're meditating or on a yoga mat. It happens in the midst of conflict, when you're frustrated, angry, or scared, and you're doing the same old thing. And then you suddenly realize that you have a choice to do it differently. Whenever we find ourselves in the midst of those emotions, that frustration, that fear and anger, or even in this posture, if there's something that's speaking to you, just remember you always have a choice to step back and do it differently. It's easy to just keep going with the way we've always done things. Good, we're here for just a couple more breaths. Notice any shifts that you may be feeling from the beginning of class, now that we've ventured a little bit deeper into the journey within. Some people may be feeling one end of the pendulum, which is a sense of peace. Maybe you feel at ease, you feel that relaxation settling in, you feel calm. You feel like you're really able to let go, but then there's the opposite end of the pendulum, which is also a part of this practice. It's some of the things that might begin to come up and confront us. We might be feeling antsy. We might be feeling like our body and our mind needs to get back to the pace that we've been operating at all day. This slowness may be kind of challenging. So just notice where you're at, because both of those places come up during this practice, and both of those places are a part of this. Two more breaths. And on your next inhale, just draw your hips up and remove the block or the pillow from underneath and set it to the side. And bring your hips back down to the mat. You can keep your feet planted on the mat, And just windshield wiper your legs from side to side. Release your low back. And if it feels good here, you can find a happy baby pose. So maybe untuck those hips and draw your feet up. I can't go very far on this, but you might have better luck. Just draw those feet down, draw your shoulders down. Maybe find some movement here too. And then release your legs back down. We're going to go into our supine twist. So instead of doing our seated twist during warm-ups, we're going to do it right here. Send your left leg nice and long. And draw that right leg up and hug it into your shoulder. And hug it maybe just a little more into your shoulder. Good, and then we're going to take this left hand and grab that left leg kind of in between the knee and the shin. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, find that twist. I'm not able to really go into a twist, but find a twist. Bring that right shoulder down onto the mat and grab maybe a block or a bolster or a pillow and place it underneath that right knee. Good, so that knee is supported fully. And this right shoulder is down on the mat. Your knee might not come very far, and that's fine. Add more blankets. And I hope the audio quality on this is okay while I'm showing you the postures. I hope you guys can hear, but keep that left leg nice and long. You might find you're kind of rolling up onto that left hip, and that's fine. But draw that right shoulder back down. So you're finding that twist from the base of your spine all the way up through the middle back and the upper back and even into the neck. Maybe gaze out over that right shoulder with that right arm facing out, palm facing up. And this is one of my favorite postures to adjust because there's so much more movement when you move with the exhale. You can always find a little deeper twist within this one, a little more release with that shoulder. That hip, that right leg can come over even a little bit farther. But wherever you're at, make sure that right leg is nice and supported here. You don't want to feel pain in the low back. And close your eyes if that feels good. Really feel this practice as an opportunity for the body to rest while the mind observes. And pay attention to how your body is resting and if your body is resting. The busy world is knocking right outside that door. And just ask it to wait. This is your chance to go within and to let it go. As we settle into this twist, pay attention to what's happening within your body, and maybe you can go a little bit further comfortably to find a little more release. So does that right leg come over a little further? Does that right shoulder come down a little further? Is your jaw still released? The jaw is an interesting thing. We start to tense up through the face, all the muscles in our face, sometimes without even realizing it, and our shoulders too. We just begin to find tension there. That's like our normal way of operating. But the first part of making any shifts is to acknowledge what's going on. So notice any tension that you're bringing back into your body and let it go. And just a couple more breaths on this side. On your next inhale, we'll open our eyes, we'll draw that right leg up and hug it into your chest one more time. So resituate your hips so you're flat on the floor. That left leg is still long, and draw that knee up into your shoulder one more time. And then replace it nice and long, slowly drawing that heel down. And then move to the opposite. So your left leg comes up. Hug it into your shoulder. And hug it in just a little bit more. Move that prop to the opposite side. Good. Use that right hand to draw that leg across on your exhale. And draw that left shoulder down. Find your support again. Probably rolling up onto that right hip as you find a nice twist through the low back, the middle back and the upper back, left shoulder coming down, right leg going across until it finds support. Maybe add another blanket if you need it. Notice one side to the other, any changes. We tend to really find those changes when we're doing our twist. Maybe your right side is a little more tense than your left. And the goal is not necessarily to find balance within them right now, but the goal is, at this point, it's not even a goal. Part of the practice is just acknowledging, like, what's happening on this side of my body and what's happening on this side of my body. And then maybe that translates into how we move and how we do things and how we carry ourselves in the world. If you're always using this side, maybe you can start to use this side. And close your eyes again if it feels good. And if there's noise from outside, distractions that arise, just know that everything's probably okay. And this is where you need to be right now. This is an important place for you, right on the mat. And come back to that analogy of the mud settling and the water becoming a little more clear. And when the water's clear, it doesn't mean we always are in love with what we see through the water, but gives us a chance to really look at life in a different way. And when our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, our prefrontal cortex is activated, and that's like a powerhouse in our brain. So sometimes during meditation, restorative classes, people start to get inspired, get a kick of creativity, get thoughts and ideas and things come to them that wouldn't have come to them without this. And sometimes people just sit there and nothing comes to them, and they just feel kind of like a stillness or even an emptiness, and both are completely fine and definitely part of the practice. And just because one class you have one experience doesn't mean that will always be your experience. A couple more breaths here. Good, and on your next inhale, we're going to draw that left leg up, hug it into your body. And then we'll replace it down alongside our right leg. Just pause here for a moment. If it feels good for you to kind of rock from side to side, you can. Maybe untuck your hips and retuck them, finding a little movement through the low back. And then find stillness with your spine on the mat. And before we move into our final Shavasana, we're going to find our supine Baddha Konasana, which is the first posture that we did. So you might want to grab your blocks or your blankets. We're going to place those at either side. Lower yourself down. The bottoms of your feet come together. And find support for the outsides of those legs, the knees, the thighs. I'm going to invite you to goalpost your arms this time. So instead of having them down to the side, just bring them up into a goalpost. And if anything about this doesn't feel right on the back, you can take your bolster and bring it down to the base of your spine and roll yourself down. So this gives kind of a little more of a back bend into the low back, and then just draw your arms out to the side. And maybe you want to play with it, even if it does feel good to be all the way down on the ground. Maybe you want to play with having this as a support for your back as well. And Baddha Konasana is a huge opening, releasing, relaxing, letting go. Just with your knees out to either side, feeling supported, of course. Your arms out to the side, maybe doing something different with them, goalposting them, or down to the side if that feels better. It's like a deep surrender. And sometimes that's what we have to do in life. We have to surrender. That's okay. There's a lot of beauty in it. And come back to that inhale and exhale. Sometimes our breath can feel like it's getting stuck as we inhale. I feel like we can't quite fill up our lungs and rise through the belly. As you're lying in this posture of surrender, just allow your inhales to become very deep and drawn out, very long. And then allow your exhales to flow smoothly and slowly. If you feel tension or even resistance with that breath, just keep going a few more times, nice and deep. And see if you can find a surrender in the breath. Beautiful. And when you're ready, moving slowly, you can bring your knees together. Come down onto the side, off of your prop if you have one, and find the fetal position. We'll remove that prop if you have it, and have your eye pillow handy. And come back onto your back. It might feel good to draw those legs in and give yourself a little hug. And then send the legs nice and long. Find space between your feet, so they shouldn't be just straight down from your hips. Open them up to either side, and your feet can kind of splay out to the sides if that feels good. Find support for your low back, so you might have to draw that tailbone down. And then draw one shoulder under and the other. Arms out to the side. Backs of your hands on the ground, palms facing up. And put your eye pillow on if you like, or your t-shirt or whatever you have. Draw it over your eyes. And lie here in our final resting pose. The way we seal our practice. And if you want to grab a blanket and place it over yourself, you can. If you've ever been to one of my yoga classes, you know that I like to use a lot of blankets. There's just a nice heaviness to the weight. It kind of draws your body down to the ground. And sometimes it's nice to put another blanket, even if it's folded up, maybe even the bolster, over your hips, just to help ground those hips. Now do a full body scan and notice any areas where you need to let go. This is the posture to let go. And notice any areas where there is discomfort. If it's your low back, just bring your bolster underneath your knees. Sometimes bending those knees will help to give a little release to that back. Maybe it's your hands. Are they kind of curling your fingers in a little bit? And just let them go. Maybe it's that jaw. Find space between the top and the bottom teeth. And there's nothing you need to do right now. There's nowhere you need to go. No particular thoughts or experiences you're supposed to be having. There's no expectation of you right now. Which is a pretty amazing place to be. And sometimes the silence begins to feel long and drawn out, and maybe even sometimes uncomfortable. And that's okay. But it's important for our body and our mind and our emotions to just surround ourselves with silence from time to time. A couple more breaths here. And begin to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. And just finding a little bit of movement in the outermost corners of ourselves. As we begin the third part of the practice, which is transition back to the outside world. And when you're ready, you can draw those arms up overhead, still lying down on your back. Take a big inhale in. Reach up from your fingertips, down to your toes, back up to your fingertips. Feel some energy coming back to your body. When you're ready, roll over onto your side. You can allow your eye pillow to drop down to the floor. And if you had a bolster under your knees or anywhere else, blankets on you, just allow them to fall wherever it feels right. And keeping your eyes still closed. On your inhale, draw yourself up to a seated position. Now, as we begin that transition, or as we move through the transition to the outside world, I think it's always important to take notice of where you are in this moment, physically, emotionally, energetically. I know often when I come from my motherhood life onto the mat, I feel this like pulsating kind of energy, and it takes me a while to, feels like it's kind of jumping up and down. It takes me a while to find an even energy, a smooth energy, kind of a place of peace. And just notice if that resonates with you. It may not, but it may. Notice where you're at with an hour of breathing and being still and moving slowly. We'll bring our hands up to our hearts, palms together. And bow your head, bring your chin down to your chest, feeling our practice. The light in me honors the beautiful light in each one of you. Namaste. Thanks for coming to class today. If you want to unmute or show your video or whatever to say hi, feel free to do so. But I hope you guys all have an amazing week ahead of you. And I've had a few requests for a gentle yoga class. If anybody would like that, well, it's going to be a gentle, relaxing class. It's more movement than restorative. So more vigorous than this class, but not that much more. But just drop me a line or let me know if that's something you want to be kept in the loop. If I have enough people, I'm happy to do it. But restorative is really my jam. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you found a chance to, you know, really relax and rest. I feel like I did, even as teaching. So thank you all very much and have a lovely day, evening. I see you guys. Let me unmute you. Hey, Megan.
Hi. See you later. Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay. Bye, guys. Have a good night.